Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today we are reading Jack's Run. We're on page 223, and we're going to finish it today. Where we left off, Jack is trying to search the house, although he has a badly swollen and hurt ankle. He's otherwise mostly okay, it seems. Smitty and Neil are kind of searching the perimeter, trying to get close and trying to find the kids. They have met with Raphael, and Sam has done and said something that is extremely concerning, to say the least, and Raphael is willing to cooperate in any circumstances. Joanne did start singing, but then she saw someone that looks oddly like her mother. Interesting. Let's see where this all ends up. So, she was a third of the way through the first song when a door opened near the end of the bar. When a door near the end of the bar burst open. A pretty woman with short black hair came out and stared at her. Joanne continued to sing. The woman started walking towards her. Halfway across the saloon, she started to run towards her. Joanne stopped singing. The woman looked like... Joanne dropped the microphone and stepped off the small stage. Zita grabbed her arm viciously, wrenched it behind her back. She put a small deranger against her head, glaring at Patricia. Another step, and I'll kill her. No, Patricia said, slid to a stop. Mom? Let her go, Zita, Raphael shouted. Standing next to him was a little man with thick glasses and Sam Sebastian. What's going on? Joanne asked. Shut up, Zita twisted her arm farther. Joanne screamed. For the love of God, Zita, let her go, Raphael pleaded. Raphael shook her head. They'll kill me. Zita laughed. If I let her go, your brother will rot in prison forever. That's what you want, isn't it? No, it isn't. The people in the saloon were looking back and forth between Zita and Raphael in utter confusion. Zita started dragging Joanne towards the door. Don't follow, or I swear I'll kill her right here. You won't get off the vineyard, Zita, Raphael said. The guards will stop you. Give it up. Zita shook her head and backed through the swinging saloon doors. By this time, several of the guests had unholstered their guns and were shouting at Raphael in English and in Spanish. Zita has gone loco, Raphael said. Many of them knew Zita, and they didn't seem surprised. Everyone stay here. Enjoy yourselves. I will take care of it. Sam hurried back to the room to get the hidden radio from the wheelchair. As soon as they heard Patricia scream Joanne's name, Neil and Smitty left the shelter of the barn and started running towards Durango. They were halfway down the road to the town when a wagon rushed past them. Smitty snapped his rifle up and aimed at the driver, but he wasn't sure who it was. He didn't take the shot. Are you there? Sam's voice came over their headset. Yeah, what's happening? A wagon just came up the hill like a bat out of... That was Joanne. Neil swore. Where's Jack? Unknown. The woman's armed. She'll kill Joanne if... Neil and Smitty started running up the road, chasing the wagon towards the house. By the time Jack got down to the basement, he was very discouraged. No sign of Joanne. There was a media room down there with all the latest equipment. He sat down in one of the leather chairs, dressed his leg for a minute, and thought about what he should do. It would take him days to search the vineyard, and his ankle was getting worse. If he didn't start for the airfield soon, he might not make it. He got up and was about to drag his leg outside when he noticed that the movie screen was not pulled all the way down. He stared at the screen for a second and saw the bottom of a door behind it. He raised the screen and discovered the secret room. Joanne's clothes were strewn on the floor. Zita held the deranger in one hand and the reins in the other as the wagon clattered up the road at breakneck speed. Joanne thought about jumping, but the wagon was going too fast. Even if she managed to land without breaking anything, she was sure Snake Eyes would catch her. Part of her Western outfit included a pair of boots that were at least a size too small for her. She was still bewildered at seeing her mom and Sam Sebastian in the saloon. What were they doing there? How had they gotten there? And why hadn't Zita let her go when Raphael told her to? The wagon nearly ran over a couple of people on the road. Joanne turned and saw one of them bring his rifle up to his shoulder, but they rounded the corner before he could shoot. Zita pulled back viciously on the reins in front of the house, causing the team to rear. If you resist, I will shoot you right here, she said, holding the deranger against Joanne's chest. What are we doing? Shut up. No talking. She yanked Joanne off the wagon and pulled her into the house. They passed through the entryway and down to the hall. When they reached the door leading down to the media room, Zita pushed her down the stairs. The door to the secret room was wide open. Get in there. Joanne got up, scrambled inside, thinking that Zita would slam the door behind her, but instead, Zita followed her in and locked the door behind both of them. She put the deranger in her pocket and glared around the room wildly. She grabbed a chair and wedged it under the doorknob. Go into the kitchen and refill those containers with water, she shouted. We're going to be here for a while. Jack stepped out of the bedroom. He was holding the pistol with two hands, the hammer cocked all the way back. Get away from the door, he said with a quivering voice. Zita smiled. Your hand is shaking. She reached for the deranger. Jack, squeezed the trigger. There was a deafening explosion. Joanne screamed. The room filled with gun smoke. Zita was several feet away from the door, holding her leg. Let's get out of here, Jack shouted, but he could barely hear himself above the ringing in his ears. Mom, Joanne said. Sam Sebastian. Jack tried to clear his ears. What did you? The door blew off its hinges. Two men burst through the opening in full tactical gear, carrying assault rifles. They pointed them at Zita in deadly silence, then flipped her over and put plastic cuffs on her wrists. Smitty broke into a bright smile. Hi, Jacko! Neil crossed over and hugged his children. Minutes later, Patricia rushed into the room, followed by Sam, Dr. Pavlov, and Raphael. They had driven the limo up to the house. Thank God, she grabbed Jack and Joanne as if she would never let him go. Jack was still in a state of shock at seeing his parents and Sam, and a funny little man with thick glasses examining Zita's leg. How did you get here? We'll have plenty of time to tell you that on the flight home, Neil said. Home, Patricia said. Neil looked at Raphael and nodded. He and Smitty's assault rifles were still at the ready in case something happened. Raphael looked pale and shaken. He kept glancing nervously at Sam. Snake Eyes was grimacing in pain. Jack thought he would feel bad about having shot her, but the truth was he didn't. She would have killed him and Joanne if she had gotten the chance. I'll stabilize the leg, Dr. Pavlov said to Raphael, but you'll have to get her to a hospital. Make it quick, Doc, Smitty said. We have a flight to catch. It took Dr. Pavlov only a few minutes. When he finished, he took his odd-looking syringe out of his bag and gave her a shot in the neck. Raphael grimaced. Snake Eyes glowered at Pavlov. What did you just give me? A condition, Pavlov answered. Raphael will tell you all about it. We're out of here, Neil said. Smitty will lead the way. I'll take up the rear. Jack took a step forward and winced in pain. What's the matter, Jack? Patricia asked. Sprained ankle, he said. Dr. Pavlov lifted his pant leg and shook his head. Not sprained. Broken. We'll drive the limo to the airfield, Sam said. Neil handed his rifle to Sam. You carry this. I'll carry Jack. I can walk, Jack protested. Neil shook his head. I'm carrying you, he grinned. End of subject. Jack grinned back at him. As they filed out of the room, Sam looked at Raphael and said, We'll be watching. Raphael blanched, another shade paler. Day 6. The hospital. Okay, so Sam did get them out. They are okay. What is up with him and El Sereno? I still want to know. Where does this all end up? Here we go. So, day 6, the hospital. They flew all night. 3 black SUVs were waiting for them at the Atlanta airport, driven by very serious and athletic-looking men in nice suits. When they got to the hospital, there were some familiar faces waiting for them in the emergency room. Marshals Doris Welty and Donald Smites and Agent Pelton from the Drug Enforcement Agency were there, along with another man who Jack didn't recognize. He was tall and fat and wore rose-tinted eyeglasses. The man looked at Jack's mother and father. I'm sorry for all your troubles. It was nothing personal. Neil gave him a hard look. Sam put a restraining hand on Neil's arm and said, He's on our side now. Neil's expression did not soften. The man smiled at Sam and Dr. Pavlov. How many years has it been? Neil raised his voice. You know each other? Sam nodded and looked at Patricia. This is a colleague of Igor's and mine from our Cold War days. Back then he was known as Alexander Petrovich, but you know him as El Sereno, or the Watcher. Patricia's expression turned as hard as Neil's. Jack thought for a second she might slap him. Doris and Don's expressions were sour as well. It seems that he was right in Atlanta, doing what he does best, Sam explained. I called him from the plane on our way to Argentina. I asked him to come over to our side, and seeing that he was about to lose his current job, he agreed. We need someone with his talents. He introduced himself to the marshals and invited them to meet us at the hospital. A young emergency room doctor came over and looked at Jack, who was sitting in a wheelchair. You must be the one with the broken ankle. Jack nodded. During the flight, Dr. Pavlov had stabilized the ankle as best as he could and given him some painkillers, but it was still throbbing. We'll get you into x-ray and then see what we can do about putting you back together. While you're getting fixed up, Sam said, we're going to visit another patient. Who? Jack asked. I'll tell you later, Sam said, patting his shoulder. Neil reached into his pocket and pulled out Commander If. I believe this is yours. Jack was as surprised to see Commander If as his father was to learn about that Sam knew El Sereno. The tiny astronaut was scarred and beaten up, as if it had been to Mars and back. Just like me, he thought. Where did you get him? Caitlin gave it to me, Neil said. She said she thought you could use a friend, but it's just a loan. She wants Commander If back. Does that mean I get to see her again? Patricia smiled. I think that can be arranged. The doctor wheeled him away. Joanne and Patricia followed. Oh my gosh, guys, my heart is happy. Him and Caitlin will see each other again. I told you there's just a touch of romance in this book. Just a little. Makes me happy. Okay, let's find out what's going to happen though. Chapter 53. You're not my regular doctor, Alonzo Asnar said. That is correct. The doctor looked at Alonzo's chart. I'm a specialist. When am I getting out of here? Very soon, I think, the doctor said, but first I need to examine you. Alonzo had been poked, prodded, and probed by half a dozen doctors in the past few days. He was thoroughly sick of it. No one would tell him anything. His sense of dread had been building, and he was frightened, an emotion he was not very familiar with. Bender had not come to see him that day, nor had he returned his calls, and there was still no word from Raphael, Zita, or El Sereno. The doctor had his back to Alonzo and was taking something out of his bag. What kind of specialist are you? Alonzo asked, with a spider-like sensation moving up his spine. I'm a heart specialist, the doctor said, turning around with a stun gun in his hand. Alonzo lunged from the bed, but he was too late. When Alonzo came to, he found himself gagged with a swatch of duct tape, and he was tied down to the bed. Standing next to the bed were Neil Osborne, Sam Sebastian, and the doctor had shot him. He tried to free himself, but the bonds held fast. Sam waited for him to stop struggling, then said in a very quiet and level voice, You need to listen to me very carefully. Alonzo stared at him with bulging eyes. Do you know who I am? Alonzo nodded. You know Neil Osborne, of course. Alonzo looked at Neil and didn't like what he saw there. Neil was grinning at him. And this man, Sam said, nodding towards Igor, is Dr. Pavlov. Of the three of them, Dr. Pavlov was perhaps the most frightening. He looked down at Alonzo with completely dead eyes, as if he were observing a laboratory rat he was about to sacrifice. Now that we have the introductions taken care of, Sam continued, I'm going to remove the gag. This wing of the hospital has been emptied. If you yell out, people will come through the door. But you should know that none of them like you very much, and they will not help you. He tore the duct tape off. Let me tell you what has happened to you. You did not have a heart attack in jail. We gave you a drug to simulate a heart attack so we could get you to the hospital. Alonzo thought about what he was going to do to the inmate who had slipped him the poison food. While you were here this week, Sam continued, we were down in Argentina. Jack and Joanne are safe. Alonzo thought Sam was bluffing. He believed that the whole thing was a setup to get him to tell him where the kids were. I don't know what you're talking about, he said. Sam smiled. I thought you might say that. He picked up a manila envelope and opened it. I know you are fond of digital photography. I've seen some of your work. Here's some of mine. He held up a series of photos of the Osborne family aboard the jet. You're probably familiar with this airplane, Sam said. It belongs to you. Or it did. We borrowed it to fly down to get the children, and we're going to keep it, along with everything else you own that's useful to us. He took out some more photographs. Now, these next photographs will be of particular interest to you, I think. He showed them photos of a very frightened Raphael Asnar tied to a chair. Raphael, Alonzo said. He's alive, at least for now. Whether he stays alive is completely up to you. What do you mean? Sam showed him another picture. Dr. Pavlov has injected something into Raphael's neck. What are you going to do to him? Alonzo shouted. The same thing we just did to you, Sam said. Is your neck sore? Alonzo's neck was throbbing. He tried to feel the sore spot, but couldn't because his hands were tied. He started to tremble. Dr. Pavlov, Sam said, was telling the truth when he told you he was a heart specialist. He specializes in causing heart attacks, not preventing them. You have been injected with a microscopic radioactivated capsule, undetectable and unremovable. It will float freely in your body, migrating here and there for the rest of your life. Sam shook a small remote control out of his pocket. Do you see this red button? Alonzo nodded fearfully. If I press this button, that capsule in your body will explode. Approximately 70 seconds later, your heart will stop working, and no CPR, no surgeon, no medication will get it going again. To put it simply, you will die. You're lying. I'll just press this button and we'll see. No, Alonzo said, sweat pouring off his face. Sam tossed the remote control to Neil. Neil caught it and smiled. Adios, Alonzo. He put his thumb over the red button. Please, Neil, no! Neil hesitated. You have a heart condition now, Alonzo, Sam said, his expression deadly serious. So does your brother, and so does Zita. We could have killed you in jail. We could have killed Raphael and Zita in Argentina, but we've chosen to let you live for the time being. And here are the conditions. Listen very carefully because if you or your brother or Zita violate one of these conditions, the red button will be pushed. Do you believe me? Alonzo nodded. Your cartel is finished, Sam said. Thanks to Neil's diary, the U.S. government has frozen all of your assets and confiscated everything you own in this country. As I'm talking to you right now, your home in Colombia and all your drug factories and warehouses are being burned to the ground. If you sell another ounce of drugs, and you and your brother and Zita will have simultaneous heart attacks. Do you understand? Alonzo nodded. You will not pursue the Osborns or anyone else or have a vendetta towards. In other words, if you or your brother or Zita harm another living being, you will all pay for it with your lives. Do you understand? Yes, Alonzo managed to say. Finally, the federal prosecutors have offered you a plea bargain. You will take their offer. With good behavior and providing you don't have a heart attack in prison, you will be out in 5 years. You'll be deported to Argentina to join your brother in the vineyard, which we have spared. And there you will stay for the rest of your life. Do you understand? Yes. You are probably thinking that you'll be able to figure a way out of this or that we will tire of watching you. Sam shook his head. Get that idea out of your mind. You and Raphael will be watched every second of every day by someone who you know who can do that job. El Sereno stepped out of the shadows into the light. A few days later. So that's what happened, Jack said. He handed Commander If to Caitlin Christabel. I think this is yours. I think he belongs to both of us, Kat said, taking the battered astronaut. They were sitting in Sam Sebastian's old room at the Nevada Hotel in Elko. Jack had his leg propped up on the bed. The desert sunlight coming through the window was beginning to fade. They had been in the room for hours talking. Do you think there really is some kind of heart attack pill? Kat asked. Jack smiled. I don't know, but Alonzo and Raphael believe there is. And Alonzo took the plea bargain? Jack nodded. He started his prison term 2 days ago. What about Sam? Kat asked. What's he up to? Jack shook his head. That's still a big mystery. I think he had more than just saving us in mind when he put us all together. What do you mean? He wants my parents to come work for him. Doing what? I'm not sure, Jack said. Going after bad guys, I think. It has to do with terrorism. All I know is that my parents are talking about it. Whatever they decide to do, they won't do it until after we find out if Joanne makes the American Superstar Finals. And you'll stay here until then? Jack smiled. If it's okay with you. Caitlin kissed him. Jack pulled an envelope out of his pocket and gave it to her. In it was the letter he had always wanted to send her, but couldn't. That's the end, guys. There's just so many good things in this. So everything kind of has fallen into place. All the pieces of the puzzle worked out. So we will be starting. I've got another book that actually has a few items in the series. So I'll start that next. Have a great day, guys. Bye.